льется. Пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи и дыши, и люби. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается.
As one important aspect of our research, we wanted to investigate language use in media sources and outlets. So we decided to interview an expert professor and journalist at the Mohila School of Journalism in Kiev. Dr. Denichenko is also the co-founder and executive director of stopfake.org. He provided us with some great insightful information about languages used in media, TV, radio, the web, etc. This is what we discovered.
Меня зовут Руслан Дениченко. Итак, об основных событиях минувшей недели. После определенного затишья российская пропаганда снова взялась эксплуатировать газовую тему. Украина закупает в Европе газ по цене в 2 раза выше его реальной стоимости. Такие заголовки вы могли увидеть в российской прессе. Пропагандистские СМИ подхватили заявление депутата украинского парламента Виктора Бондаря. Политик поймал кураж и заявил, что это происходит из-за требований Международного валютного фонда. Yeah, that's what we basically do, and I'm explaining people what is truth, what is truth, yeah, what a really truthful news.
Disinformation never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to StopFake, the place where we dissect disinformation and the record straight on fakes about Ukraine. I'm Fulbright Fellow Aaron Kennett, and this week we bring you the following fakes. IMF and Kyiv fail to compromise on Ukraine aid. Ukrainian food prices nearly equal EU levels. Ukrainian right sector radicals attack peaceful Russians in Greece. Now let's get to the details. Pro-Kremlin site Ukraina.ru published an article this week claiming that food prices in Ukraine have grown to equal those of EU countries. This claim is based on a Facebook post by former Ukrainian Prime Minister Mykola Azarov, who served under ousted President Viktor Yanukovych. Azarov, in turn, cites the RIA Novosti, who present questionable data in an attractive infographic. RIA Novosti does not cite sources, and it is not clear where its data comes from. But things will get even worse. RIA Novosti warns that's what the experts say. The experts, of course, are not named. Azarov claims that prices grew to European levels after Ukraine signed the EU Association Agreement and opened its markets to European goods. This is the result of Ukraine's European integration, Russia media conclude. A bit of searching on the web shows that RIA Novosti got its numbers from an article in the Ukrainian newspaper Сегодня. Сегодня claims its sources are the Economic Discussion Club, an economic think tank organized by former ministers, bankers, commodity traders, and its own calculations. But it does not explain what they are based on. According to Ukraine's State Statistics Service, which tracks economic and financial data, while food prices are rising, the Consumer Price Index for 2017 was lower than 2015. The Economic Discussion Club's analysis also shows that the minimal cost of the basket of goods changes through the year. Сегодня compares Ukrainian consumer prices to those of Poland, a country which has some of the lowest food prices in Europe. According to the EU statistics agency Eurostat, if we take the average food prices for the European Union to be 100, then this ratio would have the value of 63% for Poland. Numbeo, a site that tracks the cost of living in different cities, shows that in February 2018, food prices in Krakow supermarkets were on average 56% higher than in Kyiv. The Numbeo Cost of Living Index shows Ukraine to be the least expensive country in Europe, along with Moldova, Macedonia, and Albania. The site compares food prices in various cities of the world, showing that Ukrainian prices, on average, have a long way to go before they reach EU levels.
Hello, my name is Luis Perea, and today I am very lucky to be at Mohila School of Journalism, and I have the privilege to be interviewing Ruslan Denichenko. He's going to tell us more about the work he does and also continue with our research on the language situation in Ukraine. He allowed us this interview, so I'm gonna let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about fake.org. Stop Fake, sorry.
Stop Fake, yes. Hello, my name is Ruslan Denichenko. I'm a teacher at the Kyiv-Mohila School of Journalism, and I also a journalist. And I'm also one of the members of a team who produces Stop Fake. Stop Fake is a fact-checking project, and now it's been more than 5 years that we started this project. So what we do, we monitor Russian media. If we see something suspicious, we debunk lies, we debunk fakes that Russian propaganda produces, and we help people to distinguish truth and disinformation, truth and propaganda, and to be more kind of protected from the influence of propaganda.
Okay.
Yes, so that's what we do here at the Kyiv-Mohila School of Journalism. As I said, we started this project more than 5 years ago. It was March of 2014 when a group of alumni, professors, teachers of the Kyiv-Mohila School of Journalism and students of Kyiv-Mohila School of Journalism gathered together in this basement, and we realized that we need to do something to protect people from the flood of disinformation that we saw on Russian media. At least 3 Russian TV networks were among top 10 in Ukraine, in sense of ratings, in sense of the audience. They were very influential here, and but they produced so many fakes. They produced hundreds of fakes every day about Ukraine, about events in Ukraine, about Ukrainian politicians, about life in Ukraine. So we decided to do something to help people to distinguish truth and disinformation, because it was just unbelievable that media, respectful media, that a lot of people thought they're respectful, can produce lies and fakes. So we started in the March of 2014, and we started with the website, with the fact-checking website. So basically, what we do when we saw a report on Russian TV that is suspicious, we check information if it's not true, and we can find enough evidence to prove that this is not true. We publish a story with explanation, where we debunk fakes, and basically that's what we started with. Mm-hmm. So, but our website became very, very popular. In March 2014, we had hundreds of thousands of readers, people who submitted stories, mm-hmm. people who supported us, because it was very new and it was very, very important for that time. Mm-hmm. And later we started to translate our articles in different languages. Now we have 13 languages.
Okay.
Later we started to produce weekly TV shows, weekly radio shows, and monthly newspaper. And now for almost 2 years, we, together with the Ministry of Education, we help them to implement media literacy and fact-checking elements in school subjects. So children, when they study history, when they study literature, art, they learn how to distinguish true and false, and other like elements of. So it's basically media literacy. So how not to be brainwashed by somebody's intentions. We provide the teachers with examples from Ukrainian history, from modern history, when somebody reported lied using media or without using media, and how it can influence the events. So that's what we do with our experience, with our examples, with our knowledge and skills. So we try to make our children, school children, more resilient to this. It's like vaccination. If a person want to get some, I don't know, cold or whatever, it gets vaccinated to protect the organism. But to protect your brain, we think it's even more important. So how to consume information from social networks, how to watch TV and not to be brainwashed. So different useful examples, and that's what we do. In terms of language, it depends on the schools. So each school in Ukraine has its language. So there are Russian language schools, Ukrainian language, Hungarian language. So it doesn't matter for us. We work with teachers. We provide them with examples, with skills, with information, and what language they will use in their classes, it doesn't matter for us. For us, it's important that their children, their school children, will be protected, will be aware, will have necessary skills to live in this modern world. Yeah, we can distinguish. First of all, Russian language and Russian TV channels, it's a little bit different. So there are plenty of sources of information in Russian language. Almost all newspapers are Russian language in Ukraine. A lot of TV networks, their language is Russian. They use both languages, Russian and Ukrainian. Radio stations, they use two languages. They are bilingual. But TV networks, TV channels that belong to Russian government or controlled by Russia, they are banned here in Ukraine. There is no. Of course, there is no punishment for watching Russian TV. Because technically you can have a satellite dish and you can watch. You can watch Russian TV shows with IP, with the internet, with other means. So only terrestrial broadcasting of Russian TV networks is prohibited here. But the language, it doesn't matter what language Ukrainian TV networks use. It's nationwide. Yeah. So recently, the law has been implemented. And each radio station and each TV network has to have a certain proportion of Russian language content and Ukrainian language content.
Okay.
So because before that law was implemented, it was mostly Russian-speaking media used Russian language because it's more easy for them.
Yes.
But it's very dangerous for Ukrainian language, and it was a kind of discrimination for Ukrainian-speaking population. So it was the same with cinema. Because in cinemas, like 10, 15 years ago, all the movies, they were translated or they were in Russian. When the law was implemented, so people who produce movies, they have to translate it into Ukrainian language. So nothing happened. So the government want to support Ukrainian language that has been discriminated for years and decades. It was not like the one law or one, you cannot say just one date. Because, for example, for radio, it was at one point. Then they changed a little bit law and for Ukrainian music, Ukrainian language music. Now, a couple of weeks ago, they implemented a new law. So, and they want in 5 years to see more Ukrainian language on Ukrainian TV networks. So it was demand, I would say, from Ukrainian population. So because for many, as I said, for many years, Ukrainian language has been discriminated in Ukraine. No Ukrainian schools. For example, I'm from Sumy. It's a 300,000 people city. In eastern part of Ukraine. When I was a schoolboy, there were no one Ukrainian language school.
Interesting.
But 75% of population of my city ethnically Ukrainians. So they were and me. I couldn't find a school, and my parents couldn't find a school with Ukrainian language. All the children studied Russian. That was a policy of the Soviet Union. But when Ukraine became independent, it started to the government started to support Ukrainian language.
I see.
Because it was discriminated for many years. It's an interesting question. Because Russian market is huge, they produce a lot of content. Sometimes it's very good content, entertainment, movies, music, documentaries, and for years it was very easy for them to compete for Ukrainian market because they can sell their products, they can sell their shows in Russia, and then very cheaply sell it to Ukrainian market without translation, without anything. So it's like in the United States, it's like Hollywood. They produce TV shows and then they sell it everywhere in the world. So, and Ukrainian market is relatively small comparing with Russian, so local production studios, they couldn't compete. Because it's easier to buy a Russian-produced soap opera and to broadcast it than to produce your own. So, but now the situation is different. A lot of local production studios, they produce interesting content, soap operas, documentaries, entertainment shows. And I think it was a boost for local market, for local producers, local artists. They now have a chance to be successful in Ukraine, producing locally content. They can compete for local market, and they can sell it for different other countries.
And that is, of course, allowing more the opportunity to spread Ukrainian and to produce good content. I see.
Right. So it's. Local producers, they needed this support to start. And a couple of years ago, when the quotas for Ukrainian language music was introduced, people thought, oh, there is no enough good Ukrainian music for all the radio stations. But then what happened? A lot of new singers, artists appeared, a lot of new songs appeared, and now it's very successful industry. Because of these quotas, because the government said to each station, you need to have at least a third of your content in Ukrainian language. Just third. But it was just a beginning, and it helped so much. For TV networks, now they are looking for good Ukrainian language content.
Okay.
And because of that, production studios, they produce a lot of Ukrainian language content. Okay. But I would say that the language issue is in this sense, it doesn't matter. So if you produce a very good TV show, it can be translated in Russian, in English, in any language.
Okay.
The key is good content.
The content, okay.
Documentary, the comedy, soap operas, whatever. So if it's a good show, it can be translated in different languages.
I see. I see. So mainly the most effective and powerful thing would be create good content, and once when it is produced, it can easily be translated into the different languages.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't matter. The language is not an issue. So in this sense, so it's very cheap to translate in Russian, in Ukrainian. They have their own regulations, radio stations and television. They have their own regulations, but again, the governments want to support Ukrainian language, and a lot of stations, sometimes they have like morning shows. They have one Russian-speaking anchor and one Ukrainian-speaking anchor. So and they speak the same time two different languages, because I would say that 99% of Ukrainians understand both languages perfectly. Okay. So it doesn't matter for them which language they listen. They can easily understand both.
I see.
But at least this is the first step. So at least they have one anchor Ukrainian speaking. So because 10 years ago, most of radio shows, they were Russian speaking, Russian language. I would say that it helps a lot to educate people. So more people start speak Ukrainian language. Because they hear it everywhere. They hear it on TV, they hear it on radio. So people start using it in their regular life. And I think it's good. Because, as I said, 20 years ago, it was absolutely a different situation. The Soviet Union forced people to speak only Russian. So you don't need this Ukrainian language. You just speak Russian and everyone will understand you. It's like in Belarus right now. Most Belarusians, they don't speak their own language. They speak Russian.
Russian, yes.
Yeah, because there is no need to learn Belarusian language. In Ukraine, there is need to learn Ukrainian language, and this is just motivates people to learn Ukrainian, to speak Ukrainian, and I think it's good for the language, and I think it's good for the country.
I see.
It doesn't split the nation. It's it helps people. Those who don't speak Ukrainian very well, for example, people from Mykolaiv and from Kharkiv, it helps them to improve their language skills.
I see. So what you're saying is that this exposure of both languages in all the media motivates them not only to be monolingual but to be bilingual, and it sounds like it is a win-win situation, because let's say if I am an Ukrainian whose first language is Russian and my Ukrainian is not good, I get exposed and my Ukrainian gets better. But at the same time, if I am a native speaker of Ukrainian and maybe I get exposed to Russian through the media, TV, radio, I guess that also helps me kind of balance that. I guess that's how I see it.
As everywhere in the world, they prefer watching good shows.
Good shows, okay.
And I would say that for most Ukrainians, it doesn't matter which language it's, either Ukrainian or Russian, for most people.
Okay.
Of course, there are probably some people who don't speak well Ukrainian. It might be an issue. But most Ukrainians, they speak both languages perfectly, and they understand perfectly. So it doesn't matter what language is the show. I would say that online is less regulated than radio and broadcasting. So most of Ukrainian websites, they have only Russian version. But again, a couple of months ago, the law was adopted, and it says that information websites should have at least two versions. Not two words. At least Ukrainian. So if someone wants to produce the website in Russian, they need to have a Ukrainian version of the website. So this is regulation. So if you want to produce it in Ukrainian, you can translate it in any other language. It's up to you. The Ukrainian media market is pretty open. So any foreign company can come and to buy a TV network or to establish a TV network and have broadcasting. It just requires transparency. So the audience should know who is behind this company, who is the owner of this company. Is it an American company, European company, or whatever? So the only one limitation is the media that belong to the Russian government. So there is limitation because Russia is an aggressor. There are some limitations for them to have their own media in Ukraine. Yeah, of course. I would say that like 6-7 years ago, most Ukrainians considered Russians as friends, brothers, and closest people. But after that aggression, the situation changed dramatically, and now Russian television is another word for propaganda. So, and most Ukrainians treat Russia as an aggressor. The Russian government is enemy. Probably not Russian people, but Russian government is an enemy of Ukrainians. So I think that with all this aggression and annexation and Donbass story, Russia lost their closest friend, and they did it by themselves.
Yeah, I see. Very interesting.
So, and got a hostile country on their border.
Yeah.
Because before 2014, they can rely on Ukraine, they can cooperate, have some trade, and do joint projects in energy, in everywhere. Now it's gone. I think that Russia uses Russian language and their media as an extension of their foreign policy. They use church as an extension of their foreign policy. They use their businesses. So for them, it's not about language. It's about controlling this territory, controlling these people, this country. So, in this case, they will not. Because of that, people, Ukrainians, they treat Russian language as a language of aggressor, the language that it's like a weapon your enemy uses against you. So if they stop to do it, people speak Russian here. Ukraine used to be and is bilingual country, but using language, church, culture, music as a weapon, they will not promote it. Ukrainians will treat it as a weapon, not as a cultural treasure. I think for at least a couple of decades, Ukraine will be a bilingual country. But again, if you want to eliminate the influence of this weapon, you want your people speak more Ukrainian language. Your media speak Ukrainian language, and of course, the more languages you know, the better for you. And knowing more languages is a huge advantage in this modern world. But for country security, it's good that more Ukrainians learn Ukrainian, speak Ukrainian. I think it's a good thing. I would say that there are a lot of countries in the world, bilingual, trilingual, so where people speak more than one language. And usually it's good for the country. And I think that Ukraine should, as a country, should support their people speak more foreign languages, including Russian, but mostly English, German, European languages. So it will help them communicate not only with Russian-speaking world, but the rest of the world. The world is more than just Russia. So for people, it's good to speak European languages, English, because it's language that opens the world. And if you want to have business in Europe or in the United States, you need to speak English. If you want to make business in China and in Asia, speak Arabic or Chinese or at least English. I think the government should invest more money, more resources in creating good schools for learning English. This, and of course, Russian will be. Most Ukrainians will speak Russian anyways. They will understand Russian and they will speak Russian. So it will be just another advantage. But if we want Ukraine to become part of this huge open world, they need to speak English and other European languages. As a member of this Stop Fake team, I would say that I could never imagine that someone will use media as a weapon. Not for entertaining people, not for educating them, but for making war, for fueling conflicts. It was unbelievable for me, and I think it's still unbelievable for a lot of people in other countries. And this is the issue you should be concerned of, because it's invisible. It was Russian TV networks had been in Ukraine for many years. We just didn't pay attention to them, but they brainwashed so many people that it helped Russia to fuel this conflict. It helped them to steal Crimea. It helped them to create war in Donbass. Because a lot of people over there were brainwashed with Russian television. So if you want to protect your country, do not ignore this problem. Because one day you can wake up and open your window and see hundreds of people with machine guns who killed each other because they don't like the language the other person speaks or the church it goes. So there are so many bad things that propaganda can do. So do not ignore it and find a way how to protect your people. There is no universal solution for every country, but you need to find your own solution. But the number one recipe, do not ignore this problem. Find something to educate people, to help them distinguish truth and disinformation, to be protected from propaganda. That will be my message to people from other countries.
After having listened to Dr. Denichenko's insights, we can reflect on many important elements as they touch on language and media in Ukraine and even in other bilingual and multilingual countries. One of the main aspects concerning to Ukrainian reporters, journalists, and educators is media literacy. Media literacy is a powerful tool to help people think critically, to analyze the types of media and information they are being exposed to. Therefore, people, teachers, students, and media users can use certain strategies to detect misinformation and to make a decision if a given media source is reliable and whether or not it tells the truth. This can be a newspaper article, website, TV network, news, etc. Upon the implementation of a new law in Ukraine, it supports the spread and use of Ukrainian language. So, as Dr. Denichenko declared, for many years prior to the independence of Ukraine, all networks were produced in Russian language. After the revolution of 2013 and 14, Ukrainians started favoring more Ukrainian networks and Russian-led TV networks were banned in the country. This new law requires all TV networks to have at least 1/3 of their content in Ukrainian language. This, as a result, has spread the use and development of Ukrainian since it was considered discriminatory for Ukrainian nationals to be exposed always to Russian-spoken TV and radio networks. Historically, since it was more convenient to just adopt Russian-produced media content, this made it difficult for local Ukrainian radio and TV show producers to develop their content. Dr. Denichenko believes this spread of Ukrainian language through media has been and will continue to be beneficial for Ukrainians. In terms of the linguistic use in media outlets, it was interesting to realize still the use of both Russian and Ukrainian languages throughout the different media spheres. Ukraine is an interesting example, as noted by Dr. Denichenko, of how a language had been historically used as means to change people's opinions and to induce specific agendas. In this case, and based on the work he does, language can be used as a tool to try to control people. Therefore, this is a good example and application of media literacy to help people be aware of misinformation and to teach them strategies to find accurate sources of information. All in all, as Dr. Denichenko predicts, Ukrainians still will continue to use and embrace media in both Russian and Ukrainian languages, or at least for the next 20 years to come. Also, and wisely, he states the need for a more multilingual Ukraine so that its citizens can learn more European languages, English as well, as we live in this globalized world. Let us learn from the Ukrainian situation for the rest of the world to see the importance of language and media literacy, to distinguish when a language could be used as a tool to manipulate people along with media, and yet, as he notes, using the knowledge and applications of media literacy as a vaccination to help people discern the truth.
Оставайся собой, улыбайся рассветом и уверенным шагом вперед, навстречу весеннему ветру. Жизнь прекрасна, смотри, сколько лучиков светлых вокруг, океаны любви и улыбка, что дарит друг. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи и дыши и люби, и каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. Даже если вдруг гром град по сердцу обильно, есть на свете родимый дом, где поймут, а ведь любят так сильно. Рядом пусть будет та, для которой ты смысл и счастье. Нежным взглядом она защитит от беды ненастья. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи, дыши и люби, и каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи и дыши и люби, и каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается.